Today we're speaking to Wayne Bennet, who is a Senior Vice President at ECRM, a company that focuses on helping mass market retailers achieve category growth and business objectives through their suite of services. They also help new products and existing products connect with retail buyers directly. They do that in face-to-face interactions. And prior to ECRM, Wayne was a group publisher of Drugstore News, where he was responsible for general management of publications, operations, and the content development. So with all of that experience, he's the perfect person to kind of give us a little background on how to bring a product to retail and how to really present that product as that is your experience, right, Wayne?
Yeah, thanks, Joel. I appreciate being part of this format. So happy to answer any questions and give any insight I can.
All right. Well, first, a general question: how do I sell my product to retailers? What pieces of advice would you give if somebody was ready to bring the product to retail and start contacting people? What do they need to know?
Well, I think it's really important that you need to understand what the retailer is looking for. You have to understand, obviously everyone has to have a good product, because you need consumers to come into the stores and buy your product. But you really have to understand what the retailer is looking for and the role that that product can play in helping that retailer achieve those goals and objectives. So the question really becomes is, how do you learn about what the strategies or what the focus of these retailers are all about? A lot of these retailers are public companies, and you can certainly go online and look at their their news feeds and look at their 10Ks, but that's not going to really give you the granular at the category level to really understand what those merchants are looking to accomplish. So there are a couple of very basic things that I think you need to do, and clearly I think you need to partake in this platform right here, right, Joel? The work that you're doing to bring people who have some wherewithal and knowledge base to learn about how to do business in retail. So that's clearly a good thing. There's a number of trade events that you can attend and be part of, because at those trade events there's plenty of opportunity to network with retailers, with other suppliers, but also importantly, attend the educational sessions that are always presented at these trade shows, because I think in there are the golden nuggets to help you connect the dots about how your product can be best framed to win at retail. I do also want to mention that ECRM is and not that I want to give a shameless plug for ECRM, but ECRM is a great place for small, medium, challenger brands to come to and have immediate access to multiple retailers across food, drug, and mass and specialty to get in front of, to understand what's important to them. And then there are platforms like RangeMate, which is a great product discovery tool for suppliers. It's a free product where suppliers can submit their products for review to retailers. And then there are other resources like large national sales and marketing consultancy groups like the Emerson Group, or other regional brokers like National Sales Solutions, and also other industry experts like the Mac Elevation Forum. So there is a wealth of information. Nothing should be cookie cutter, and everything should really be framed to the need of the role that category has within that big box retailer.
I appreciate that advice, and I think that really you have a great perspective through ECRM of seeing all of these kind of budding brands and existing brands, and sometimes where they fail. So what would you say is the biggest mistake that suppliers make when approaching retail buyers at that table?
Right. No, it's an excellent question, Joel. And very basic, very granular sort of sales 101 is, don't overburden the retailer with a PowerPoint presentation. Right? Less is more. Don't put in all. Don't be specific, be relevant. There's really probably only 3 things that the retailer really needs to know, right? What's your product? Why is it different? What's in it for me? And how you're going to get it into the hands of the consumer. I mean, everything else is just really a whole lot of noise. And so you really have to be specific, be brief, be short. You have to understand the role of the category, as I said earlier. And, another piece of advice is don't always think if you're going to sit down with a Walgreens or a Kroger or a Walmart that, you're going to sell every single store in that chain. If you can walk out with an opportunity to sell in urban stores, a lot of these retailers now are looking at localization strategies, segmentation strategies, and if your product fits a rural area, then focus on that. If your product is set for an urban area, focus on those stores within that urban area. So don't think you're going to hit a home run right out of the box. Joel, I lost you on your video, on your sound.
Perfect example.
And
when you walk into those meetings, having that goal and knowing what they're looking for is really key. One of our members asked a really interesting question. How do I find a distributor for my business? And I know that member. They're trying to get their product into a grocery store, but they're running into that chicken or the egg situation where the grocery store buyer doesn't want to speak to somebody who isn't being carried by a distributor that services the store, and the distributor doesn't want to speak to them unless they have a purchase order from the grocery store. So
right.
How does somebody kind of rise above that?
Yeah. Well, I think when you say a distributor, or it's, I guess, Joel, if I understand, it's someone who's going to represent the product to the retailer. Is that
that's going to deliver the product to the store?
Someone who's going to deliver the product to the store, or someone who's going to sell into the retailer?
Somebody who's going to deliver the product into the store. So a Kihi, a McLean, a UFI.
Yeah. So, in that regard, I probably don't have as much expertise in terms of that. I know traditionally in the drugstore space, there are companies that do a lot of sales execution to maintain planogram integrity and to make sure that the setup is correct. There are companies like Crossmark or Advantage that Premium Retail that do work with retailers to ensure the integrity of the planogram is all aligned to what headquarters is saying it needs to be. On the food distribution side, I probably am not as versed there versus some other channels.
I appreciate you admitting that. First off, we want to go off real advice. So you were speaking about merchandisers, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say we were going into a retail like a CVS or a Walgreens or a drugstore.
Yeah.
How do we bring a product to that kind of a retailer, since you know that vertical so well?
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of the sell-in, it's probably very similar across the board. I think a manufacturer has to understand, do they want to own that whole process on their own? Do they want to set up their own sales organization and have a structure where they have a sales team that's going in and making the calls on the merchants? Do they want to completely outsource that and bring that to a broker or a sales and marketing consultant, or do they want to do a hybrid? Right? Do they want to maybe manage the national accounts on their own, and do they want to do field brokerage accounts? So I think there's all different schematics, risks and rewards that come with that decision making. But clearly, if anyone, after this program, because there are many of them out there, I don't have any sort of financial relationship with them, other than I know for the last many years, they do really good jobs with the suppliers we recommend them to. So if anyone wants to reach out to me afterwards, I'd be happy to be more specific around who.
That's an awesome offer, and I appreciate that. As far as bringing product into retail, I think you have a unique perspective through your position at ECRM. What have you seen successful so far as the products that have really gotten the most out of a platform like that? out of that face-to-face agreement? What did they walk in with besides the information that you shared earlier? And what can you really do to prepare for a meeting like that? Should you have retail success? Should you? What kind of numbers do you need to know?
Well, in today's modern retail world, a lot of retailers, and it's a little bit all over the board, are always looking for vendors that are quote unquote retail ready, right? They've got to have the production, they've got to have the capacity, they've got to have the resource base to do business with these large chains. So be prepared to have that discussion and be prepared that that's the expectation. So I would say, don't even make the call on that retailer if you don't think you have the ability to service them. They want to be serviced, because you really only have one shot to that regard. And again, you want to just try to be prepared relative to understanding the role that your product will play at that retailer relative to is that merchant or is that category meant to focus in on sales growth? Is it margin enhancement? Is it to drive traffic? Is it to drive conversion? Mm-hmm. And understand what the retailer is looking for in that category to contribute to the overall business that they are pursuing.
That's a great point. And I think that the thing I like about what your company is doing is, it's the old school face-to-face, get to know, relationship building, but what do you see as the biggest shift or trend that you've seen maybe over the last year?
Yeah, it's a great question. I tell you, the one thing that I really truly love about retail is that it is ever changing, right? I don't think there's, 1 year to the next, there's really, there's so many things that change, but I think, today, and there's been a transformation, and I think everyone knows that you have to have better for you or natural organic, and now there's an evolution of ingredient transparency and understanding where your ingredients are coming from. And a lot of the retailers today are looking at own brand development and looking for new. I've had a retailer tell me they're looking for capability. They're not looking for product. They're looking for capability. So that's another frame for the audience to think about. If you have a product, that's great. But if you have a capability, that's the way you approach it, as a capability.
Right.
But I think if you look at how technology is transforming the store, and really technology is becoming, I think, obviously the new currency of what's important to retailers. So you do have product, but you now have technology. The ability to, in the case of Kroger, they just launched the new Scan Bag and Go, and now you're going to be able to self-checkout on your phone. Suppliers today have to be very cognizant of the technology integration that these retailers are looking to win with, and that's a whole new dimension for these companies.
Yeah.
I've spoken to retailers that are very keen in finding brands. I don't know what to call it, but I call it digital DNA. What are those emerging brands out there that have a very unique, strong digital DNA that can really resonate with the consumer through digital?
So have that following, have that base online that they can tap into to move traffic in the store. That's what you're saying.
That's right. And even beyond, in terms of understanding how technology and what a retailer is going to do with the technology to redefine store experience, and understand how your brand or product could even find a way to insert themselves into that.
That's a great point. Think about your brand as far as capabilities, what you can offer to them, and how you can enhance the shopper experience. I think those are two things that not a lot of people really consider when they're considering presenting their product to a retailer.
Yeah, it's very true, and it's it's so much more than just a product, because a lot of people today have a lot of good product, and the product is going to get you into the hall, but I think there are other things that are going to get you to dance.
Yeah, And that's coming from the guy that coordinates the dancers, so I can appreciate that. If you could leave our audience with maybe the best thing that they can do today to prepare for business success in the current year, what can they do to really set themselves up to hit those goals that they've set for themselves?
It's a great question. I think, to answer that question, there are obviously suppliers that are all over the development segmentation of that question, right? I mean, there are some new guys that are just coming in for the first time, or they're well-established companies. But I would imagine, for the purposes of this today, if you're a new company and you're looking to gain retail distribution, I can't stress more than don't expect to be all things to all people. Understand the role of the retailer, the role your product has in what your product can contribute to that retailer's success. And I think a good question is, a good question is understanding what the retailer needs to accomplish. Mm-hmm. What's the role of the category? Be flexible. And again, there are a lot of good experts out there who can help guide you, lead you, provide quicker access, and just provide a more quicker, efficient pathway to success. And, ECRM has been around for about 25 years. We work with a lot of small, emerging challenger brand companies that just do not have the wherewithal to get in front of these merchants, and we align the retailer needs with the capabilities and the product capabilities of the suppliers, and we make it very efficient for both parties to come together. So
I appreciate that. And you have an amazing platform, both online and offline. So thank you so much for your time today, and I appreciate your expertise and you sharing it.
Joel, I appreciate you reaching out, and good luck with the platform. And if we can be to help to anybody else, just let us know.